and we're away. Hello, I'm Jim Fuller from the Great Australian Mushroom Company. We are a Victorian mushroom wholesaler. I just want to get straight into cooking mushrooms today. I don't want to talk about what mushrooms to buy, how to look for them when you're buying them. I just want to talk about cooking them. I've got a couple of varieties that I want to get straight into cooking. And I want to showcase the agaricus type mushroom today. So this is the humble white mushroom. I've got buttons and I've got flats. Now I'll talk a little bit more about those as I go. I also want to put a little bit of an exotic spin on what I'm doing and show you how to cook with the trumpet royale or the king oyster mushroom, and I've also got a bilingue mushroom. These are both in the oyster mushroom families of exotics, and they're both available year-round here in Australia. Alright, so getting straight into it, just want to make sure that I got my oven on full ball, because I'm going straight in there with some field mushrooms, because they're going to take the longest to cook in this. Now, I've got here my field or open flat mushroom. It's the white agaricus. I'm going to pack loads of flavor into it before I do anything else, but I want to get these cooked because I also want to stuff these mushrooms. I'm going to stuff them with other mushrooms. So I don't want to put cooked mushrooms inside of a raw mushroom and then have the raw mushroom leaching out all of its liquid into my hard-earned, well-reduced stuffing. So I'm just going to take and add as much flavor as I can and get them going. Straight in there, I'm going to go with some extra virgin olive oil, drizzle of that, a sprinkle of balsamic vinegar. Why? Balsamic vinegar's got a sweet and savory and sour pungency to it that really works well with mushrooms. I also want to put some whole herb in there. This is really just going to throw some aroma in as it's going in. And bay leaf. I'll break that up a little bit. Shallots and garlic. You'll find that I put lots of shallots and garlic in with mushrooms. Why? Because shallots and garlic go very well. Anything really in the onion family goes very well with mushrooms. You'll find I'm not putting a lot of oil or anything else on here because it will create a lot of its own flavor. Now I just want to finish that off with a little bit of sea salt flakes. And when I get them in the oven, I want to make sure that I get them onto a baking tray face down, because I want to let that liquid that cooks out of them fall away. Alright, now I've got them coated with their goodness. Just make sure that all that nice aromatic stuff is going to surround them while they're cooking, and then straight into the oven. Now I got that oven on as high as I can because this is going to be a very short cooking process, but that will take the longest of everything that I'm going to do. Now those stems that I pulled out, I can put them in my stuffing, I can put them in my stock or my stew. They're going to cook down quite nicely, and they are fibrous, and they are hard to chew unless they're cooked thoroughly or cut up very small. For the purposes of today, I'm just going to chuck them out. Now, on to the next thing. I want to make sure I get my flame in line. Okay, got my flame on, and I'm going to get right into cooking agaricus in a way that probably most people have never cooked a button mushroom. Now, mushrooms are like a vegetable meat. You cook them with very high heat, and typically you do them dry. And you've been told for years and years and years that you can't wash mushrooms. In a way, that's kind of true, and it's a good method, or it's a good rule to stick to. However, you absolutely can wash these mushrooms if you're going to cook them in the way that I'm about to. I'm about to cook them with an initial amount of water, which is something that most people don't do, but the purpose of this is that when you initially cook them with water and heat, the cells of the mushroom collapse and they let out all their water. Now what's important about that is that they're going to let out their water into a bath that's going on around them, which is essentially going to become a little mushroom stock. Now that mushroom stock is going to reduce, and upon reducing, it's going to start changing color and more importantly, flavor. Now, we're going to let that reduce all the way to where it gets sizzly at the bottom of the pan, and then we're going to do everything we can to lift it back up off the pan and get back onto the mushrooms. In that way, we're going to add loads and loads of flavor to every bite. And you see I'm just quartering the mushrooms. And also with this method, it's quite okay to crowd the pan. Now, a lot of times whenever you do your cooking, you're told absolutely do not crowd the pan, because that water needs to come out and evaporate away, and that's absolutely right when you're talking about sauté. But in this case, we're going for just a little bit of something different. Now, in the beginning, I'm not going to add any fat or oil, but I will through the cooking process of this, but I'm going to get it on. And right now, we're going to go to the next. So, in the pan, this is just tap water. So right now, I've just got these mushrooms swimming away in a little pool of water. I've got no flavor components. I've got no fat components. I've just got mushrooms and water. Now we'll do all the rest of that whenever that reduces down. I'm going to whack my flame on for the next thing. Alright, for the next one, I'm going to get bags and bags of flavor into the button mushroom in a little bit of a quicker way. And in that way, I want to make sure that I've got my kettle on full whack, because I'm going to be using a dehydrated mushroom, a dry mushroom. That's a dry porcini. Now you can get these in most places that sell mushrooms in the dried form, but they're rather expensive. Now, I can show you how to use these in a way that 15 grams, which costs you $6 to $8, isn't going to be used entirely in one hit. And then you can actually space it out over the course of a few meals. Alright, so we start with just a few pieces of dry porcini. Now some of this is going to be held back to make a small stock, and some of this I'm going to use to turn into mushroom powder. Straight into my mortar pestle, and I'm going to go powdering straight away. Now there is a much faster and more consistent way of doing this, but I like the traditionalist method. And here we go. We've got powdered porcini. The faster method that I spoke about, coffee grinder. Alright. And I got that all powdered up. Ready for the next application. Now, my kettle's already done boiling, so I want to get that stock going. What I've got here is just a container with a lift away sieve. Now all I'm going to do is cover those with boiling water. I'm going to use the water and the mushroom. Get that going. Okay, so my flame is on for my next cooking method. And I'll do the same quartering. Very organic look to the mushrooms when you do it like this. My preferred way of cutting them, if I don't keep them whole. And by the way, I only got one go at this, so there's no cutting and retaking. We got one go. So if I get a bit boring, I'm sorry. I've only got one shot at doing this. Alright, so I'm going to go straight into my pan, and this time I'm going to add my fat first. So I'm going in with some extra virgin olive oil in my nice hot pan, and in with the mushrooms. Now you hear them sizzle straight away. That's what we want. Back on the flame. Trusty handheld camera. You can see my other pot boiling away, boiling away. Now I'm just going to let these sort of go. We have a high water content in mushrooms, so they're going to be quite happy to sit there and let off some of that water while I keep talking. Now, I want to get my flame on the next burner for the next application. That is the fun exotic type mushrooms. We have the trumpet royale, or Pleurotus syringae. It's colloquially called Boletus of the steppes. Boletus is the genus of the famous porcini mushroom. The reason they're called Boletus of the steppes is because they have the texture of a fresh porcini. However, they don't have the taste, but we're going to add that, aren't we? And we're going to add it in the same way that we're going to add that to the agaricus pot that we got cooking. I'm just cutting some nice large chunks because we really want to get that textural component to this. And I have another beautiful mushroom here called the Pleurotus nebridensis, or nebridini, bilingue. It is an Asian mushroom in the oyster family with a very silky and buttery soft texture, which I just love to add a couple of different levels of textural components in each dish. I'll just cut those up in similar chunks. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the agaricus, in that I'm going to put the fat in the pan first. All the while checking everything else that I got going on. So we got some browning happening in there. We still got some reduction going on in there. Still a little ways to go. Fat into the pan. A little bit of this. A little bit of this. Doing the same thing with the sizzle. Now I'm not going to cook this whole amount. Put that aside for tonight's dinner. And I'm just going to get ready to throw bags of flavor into everything that I got going on right now. I've got my acid here. This is going to help me draw flavor out of each one of these pans whenever the goop at the bottom sort of gets stuck and I want to get it back up on the bottom. Okay, I'm traveling along quite nicely with my quick saute. Now what I want to do now, see, I got the nice brown color. I want to get some garlic, onion, and herbs in there. And I really want to get that liquid that I've created in the extra. In with some shallots and garlic. A little bit of a light toast. A sprig or two of thyme. And in. And what I've done is I've created a bit of a stock, and I've pulled all the brown stuff on the bottom of the pan back up onto the mushrooms. And I got my other mushroom stock extract working quite nicely. You can see the color of the tap water has changed to light brown. That's going to keep coloring up as it keeps cooking down. Now I got my garlic and shallots in there. I got my herbs in there. I'm just going to chuck in a bit of a bay leaf for extra good measure. And before the end of this cooking process, we're going to throw in the rest of the porcini in that form of the porcini dust. Now I've got my exotics working away over here, and you can see they're getting their nice browning going on. It won't be long before I'm doing the exact same. You can see we're mostly reduced there. Just a small amount of liquid left on the bottom of the pan. Grabbing my porcini dust. Just in with the finer bits. Now you can see we've had a second reduction and we still have dew on the bottom of the pan. I'm just going to pick that up with a little bit of tap water, finish that off with salt and pepper, and that will be a done dish. Plenty of applications to do with this type of mushroom. Now that plate up, I'm going with my exotic mushrooms now, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did with my agaricus with the porcini. Everything in. I've got my exotic mushroom stock that went in there. As soon as that dries up a little bit, I'm going to, just as it's reducing enough, stir around. Bit of shallots and garlic. Stuff is forming on the bottom of the pan again. A little bit more tappy water. Ah, and look what's going on here. We're finally got the mushrooms to get to the point of drying the pan. Now is when all the magic is going to start. Alright, those are dry again. I'm going to hit them with some porcini and some salt. Here's a dry porcini. And there's the sea salt. Done. Okay. Those are ready for that last little layer, that last little addition that our chefs love to do. A little mount of butter. However, today, keeping it healthy, a little shot of olive oil. It adds that silkiness right in. I'm going to do the same thing here. One, two. Look at that. Look at this sizzle go. Now, I am going to add my fat in the form of extra virgin olive oil. Now, of course, you can add your butter. I've given it a healthy dose. And you can see these mushrooms are now browning up almost instantly. I'm going to give them that little shot of lemon. Going to help bring some of that brown back up off the pan onto the mushroom. I'm working my flavor in layers here. In with a bit of sea salt. I've got lots of brown happening in there. That's exactly what I wanted. Those mushrooms are going to be fantastic and completely flavored with just agaricus. Now I'm going to do the same thing that I always do with these, and that is put in Shallot's garlic, bit of savory herb, love thyme, and I'm going to deglaze the pan with just water. Because I'm going for a sauce and a stuffing, I put an excess amount of water. It's going to evaporate off really quickly, but you can see the intensity of that color, which is now developed. I'm going to evaporate this down to the point of being almost dry. But before I let any more of that flavor stick to the bottom of the pan, I want to capture it in my next extract of sauce. The cream. Now, of course, this dish would be fine on its own. And you can change the elements of the stuffing by taking it out of the pan before adding the cream and chopping it up fine. But I sort of love this tight mixture of whole mushrooms that have been sauteed, stuffed inside of other mushrooms. And the last element that I'm going to add to this, panko breadcrumbs. That'll just help tighten it up a little bit. Let that cook for just the last second while the cream is tightened up. Turn the flame off. The residual heat will do everything I need it to do. Now I have a banging mushroom stuffing and another quick mushroom stuffing that could be turned into a sauce, a soup, anything along those lines. Now into our field mushrooms that have been cooking this entire time. Oh. Look at that. Lovely. Oven off. In with my decadent mushroom stuffing. Look at that. I have heaps more flavor left in there if I wanted to scrape that up. Turn it into another sauce. I've got my air cooked in 2 ways. My faux porcini. I can't wait to try. Have a look at that lovely stuff. Don't they look just delicious? And I'm going to tell you right now if I've done a good job or not. Steaming hot. It's a lovely texture. There's no slippery rubberiness here. It's meaty. It's exploding with flavor. The flavor is coating the whole bit of it. That's an amazing mushroom. Now, I'll leave the faux porcini for last. I just want to taste this other agaricus. Also very, very lovely. The flavor in this is awesome because that porcini explodes. The porcini does a fantastic job of delivering heaps of flavor. Now, I add heaps of flavor to a textural mushroom that has the same texture as a porcini. Am I going to fool my own senses? Absolutely. That is fantastic. And what I've done there is I've created a jumping off point. A platform to start a mushroom side dish, a mushroom sauce, a mushroom soup. That mushroom can become a stuffing. Mushrooms stand up very well next to any protein you can throw at them. Chicken, meat, fish. And they do a lovely job of letting the star of the show be the star of the show due to the natural glutamates in the mushrooms. Those natural glutamates enhance the flavor of other things that they're paired with, reducing the need to add salt and increasing the overall flavor of the dish. I hope I've given you just a little bit of something to take away and hopefully a new way to cook mushrooms, one of the 3 methods that might suit. And that's all. Thank you very much.